Fusion is an interesting hypothetical. It doesn't necessarily mean that fusion technology for nuclear fusion technology for the consumer is ever going to come to fruition. The French government right now is investing a lot of money into fusion. In fact, they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars laying down the framework for a new fusion reactor that's currently in development, but it's in its infancy stages.
I mean, it's sort of a pipe dream, isn't it? I mean, they invested in Star Wars. Our government spent a big pile of money, but it was really just fake money. It wasn't really any practical hope that you're going to sit there and make missiles obsolete. So it was bullshit. And so maybe the French are just doing the same thing because, certain people, certain capitalists can make money off of the research. But I mean, come on, they really don't have anything. It's not practical.
Actually, a lot of framework has been laid down to create fusion reactors, not just worldwide, but stateside as well. Right now, it's not possible with our current technology, but with some money invested into it, very well could come to be. I mean, France right now has a very successful nuclear.
Yeah. But isn't that sort of like I say? I mean, so you're just talking. You're just saying, yeah, well, it seems like it should be possible. I mean, you might as well just say something like that. It seems like it should be possible. I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing. They don't have any blueprint. Come on.
The same could be said about ionic fission, or nuclear fission, for that matter. Just because it hasn't been attained yet doesn't mean it won't be in the very near future. France right now has an incredibly successful nuclear fission program. Very successful. Their nuclear reactors are doing awesome.
Yeah, I'm just saying, well, okay, the regular nuclear programs are very successful, yes, granted. I'm just saying, though, but this, again, Star Wars, you could sit there and say, right, yeah, well, it's just around the corner. 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 No, it really isn't.
I'm not saying it's just around the corner. It's around the corner. I'm saying it's very possible that this could be achieved in a very short period of time. Especially with the amount of research that's going into it.
What's more probable? What's possible, and let's go with probable. I'm saying that it's more probable that it won't happen in the near future, okay? Because it's really, really hard to keep a sun in your pocket. It's hard to build a container for a sun. Yeah, very hard to build a container to hold one of those.
It's not the containment that's really the problem. It's getting the reaction to occur. Because right now we can't allow it to be sustainable. It keeps collapsing, and we don't know how to make it actually work. But yeah, I mean, France's nuclear program, its nuclear fission program, isn't just successful, it's profitable. They're making a fuck ton of money off of it.
Well, the point isn't to make money. The point is to provide electricity, which they're doing. For a country that doesn't have any oil, so that's a good idea. But there's, that technology is going to have its lifespan too. Especially the rest of the world has to start bleeding the uranium sources. Well, electric cars they don't solve any problem. I mean, their problem. They're green. Okay, they're good at. They're not even green. They're good at like in a city. Okay, of reducing smog or something. But otherwise, they don't save energy. They don't use energy more efficiently.
Electric cars are a fucking sham. They're mostly made out of plastic, which comes from petroleum, so you're using oil to produce them. Also, they require the use of lithium-ion batteries, which are unrecyclable, and lithium-ion batteries need precious metals, which are at a premium right now. Electric cars are more ecologically harmful than typical gasoline ones. If you're really concerned about saving or preserving the environment, buy a used fucking car that get a good fuel economy. Buy an 80s fucking Corolla.
No, I'm just saying though, but there is a value to it if people reduced speed, reduced the weight of their vehicles, and used them in a city where they would reduce smog and all these other negative effects. then electric cars becomes hugely efficient because you're creating huge efficiencies by eliminating all this SUV waste, all these traffic accidents, all these fender benders, all this bullshit that goes with the way we've constructed our society. So I'm just saying, if we could electrify cities, that would make fucking sense.
But the problem isn't carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide emissions. The problem is fucking waste. We have a consumer culture which places a lot of emphasis on designed obsolescence and desire to obtain the new. If people were to be less wasteful and stop purchasing new cars at every opportunity and continue to maintain their old ones, I guarantee you that there would be positive environmental and ecological reactions from such. I don't think that having a car which is going to waste gas is going to hurt the environment any more or any less than driving a fucking Prius.
Well, it does, though, because it's a weight issue too. So I'm saying, if we could move to an electric car like a fucking golf cart, okay, or something that didn't go 70 miles an hour, something that didn't weigh a ton, all that other crap. Well, then there's efficiencies to be gained if we can get people out of their 2-ton vehicle and put them in a 500-pound vehicle. There's a huge efficiency to be gained there.
I can dismiss Shockwave, the effects of CO2 emissions, because only in the United States 6% of that comes from automobiles. That's 6%. It's a very fucking small number. In contrast to where it's coming elsewhere. A lot of the CO2 emissions actually come from the meat industry, yet we don't see people cutting back on eating meat and raising livestock because they're afraid of CO2 emissions. I mean, we don't see people cutting back on purchasing goods which are packaged in plastics. And the development of plastics from petroleum releases a huge amount of CO2 and carbon monoxide. I mean, the entire thing is a fucking sham. People have fallen prey to consumerism. That's all it fucking is. They've been sold a product which is a fucking scam, and they're buying it. And they're congratulating themselves for doing so. Cars emit sulfur, CO2, and carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a problem, yes. But most of that, again, doesn't come from automobiles. Carbon dioxide, yes, that is a fucking problem. But also, most of it doesn't come from automobiles. I mean, plastics. The manufacturing of plastics is going to hurt a lot more than driving a fucking old car. Yes, Shockwave, but we're talking about resources which were gathered years ago. We're talking about the preservation of existing resources. I don't know how you could so easily divorce this argument of that.
So the majority of carbon dioxide emissions in the United States come from, like, plastics manufacturing and the meat industry. I didn't realize that. That's fascinating. I'd always assumed a lot of it came from the cars.
Carbon dioxide, not carbon monoxide. A lot of carbon dioxide comes from the rearing of livestock.
I said dioxide.
Oh, I thought you said carbon monoxide. My mistake. Yeah, but you'll smoke most of it.
Point is, though, it's localized, okay? And so smog is an issue. It's a local problem, okay? Because we're living in cities and all that kind of crap, and so it's a quality of life issue that would make a difference for individual humans if we, came up with. And look, and when the most traveling is doing this within 3-mile thing, right? Most trips in vehicles are these short trips, and if we could make it hugely efficient, if people could tolerate making their little short trips in a little lightweight vehicle that went 35 miles an hour, not 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, what's funny about that, people in text, is my car was made in 1976. It gets 26 miles to the gallon. It also gets a 13.9 quarter-mile time and a 5.60 to 60 to 60. It's a Toyota. It's a wonderful little car. I don't see why people dismiss used cars so quickly and have to purchase new ones. If they're concerned about ecological impact, purchase a used car. Plain and fucking simple. Yeah, I mean, also, I don't understand America's resistance to public transportation. If you live in the city, it does not make sense to own a car. If you have a short commute, it does not make sense to use public transportation for your commute. I don't understand how we've associated that with being of a lower social stance. It makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, well, I think the public transport, it depends on how it is and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this idea of being crammed into these trains and all that kind of stuff is kind of sucky, and if we made them different, we created different kinds of transport, like cable cars and like the San Francisco thing, something that just kind of popped along at 20 miles an hour and you could kind of run after it and jump on. It'd be nice if they had some kind of public transport that wasn't locked into this. Like I said, New York subways is not a pleasant fucking way of getting around.
That's actually a serious problem in the United States recovering zombies, that our infrastructure has been established so that you more or less have to have an automobile. And that's because most of it was designed after the advent of the automobile when you compare it to somewhere, let's say Old World Europe or Asia, where people were stuck riding horses or walking on foot. That makes public transportation quite a bit easier because things developed before the car was made. In the United States, everything came after the car. And I mean, it's having a serious impact now.
Yeah, it's an infrastructure expenditure thing. I mean, they need to come up with better, not monorails. They need to come up with some kind of, something that retains some sort of individual freedom and comfort and quality of life, and you're not just moving people, but it's moving people in some kind of graceful way. But whatever, that's my argument about it anyway. Because people are going to keep choosing. But I'm just saying, and it's a change in infrastructure that has to happen, in my opinion. And people aren't going to make the change because they're all selfish bastards. So, the end.
I really like the concept of Zipcar, that you can rent a car for a short period of time when you need one. You rent it by the hour. Exactly. That's a brilliant concept to me. But I think they're going to have a lot of difficulty getting the public to adopt it in a very, large way, because there's a lot of emphasis placed on owning a personal automobile in our country. It's a sign of status. If you don't have a car, you're pretty much nobody.
Yeah, well, it's the fact that we never standardized anything, though. Look at the way we made cars. We didn't standardize the bumper heights. We didn't standardize anything about these fucking things, which makes the whole way they transport things around just a complete waste and inefficient. I'm just sort of arguing that if we change the rules, then you could afford you could survive on the road if you had a golf cart lane or whatever, fuck bicycle lanes. Let's have golf cart lanes, and give people the option of personal transport, but more green personal transport.
Actually, the cafe standards do pretty well standardize production of automobiles at the moment. But I do agree with you. I think that the highway system in the U.S. should be tiered, depending on speed, similar to the Autobahn. That we have cars moving faster to the left and cars that need to move slower on the right. I mean, it would make more sense, it would save gas, it would save time, it would be safer for the populace as a whole. It doesn't make any sense how we have our existing infrastructure. It seems completely ass backwards to me.